Wedding War in the city of Lagos, where the roads shine with car lights at night, and the air smells of roasted corn and petrol. There lived a young man called Prince Adigun. He was not just any young man, he was the son of the Oba of Ilupeju, the king, whose palace gates were taller than two coconut trees put together. Prince Adigun was the kind of person people couldn't stop talking about. Some said he had more money than all the traders in Balogun market combined. Others swore that if you line up all his cars, they would straight from Victoria Island to the Lekki toll gate. He was tall, with skin smooth like polished wood, and his smile was so bright, it could make you forget the heart of Lagos traffic. One hot afternoon, two women selling vegetables sat under a big umbrella at the market, fanning themselves. "Have you heard?" one of them, Mama Kemi, whispered, leaning close. "Prince Adigun just bought another yacht." The other woman, Mama Tolu, widened her eyes. "Ah, another one? How many yachts does one person need?" "As many as he likes," Mama Kemi said, grinning. "If I were as rich as that boy, I would buy a new gele every day." Meanwhile, inside the palace, Prince Adigun walked through the marble hallway, his footsteps echoing. A young servant carrying a tray of pineapples bowed quickly. "Good afternoon, my prince," the servant said. Adigun smiled. "Good afternoon. Make sure those pineapples go to the kitchens. My father likes them fresh." He paused at the balcony, looking out at the city. From up there, Lagos looked like a treasure box filled with moving lights. One day, he thought, all this will be mine to care for. What the prince didn't know was that his heart was about to meet someone who would change his life forever. That evening, the Eko Hotel shone like a giant golden lantern. Cars lined up in front, their headlights cutting through the warm Lagos night. Inside, music from a live band floated through the air, mixing with the scent of perfume, champagne, and spicy finger foods. Prince Adigun stepped into the grand ballroom. The chandelier sparkled above him, casting light on the sea of guests dressed in their finest lace and silk. Heads turned when he walked in, his agbada flowing like the royal cape of a storybook king. "Prince Adigun is here," a young lady whispered to her friend, pretending to sip her drink, but keeping her eyes fixed on him. Another woman giggled. "If he looks at me tonight, my life will change forever." Adigun moved through the crowd politely, greeting people with a nod. He had attended many of these charity events before, but tonight, something felt different. Across the room, near the edge of the dance floor, he saw her. Bisi. She wore a simple but elegant blue dress that caught the light every time she moved. Her skin glowed like the evening moon, and her eyes held a kind of confidence that made people pause. She didn't glance around nervously like others. She didn't rush to greet him like the women who were already inching closer. She just stood, talking calmly with another guest, her laughter soft but sure. Adigun found himself walking towards her, almost without thinking. When he reached her, she turned and looked straight into his eyes. No bow, no quick curtsy, just a steady gaze and a small knowing smile. "Good evening," Adigun said, his voice lower than usual. "Good evening, Prince Adigun," she replied. Her tone was warm, but not overly impressed, as if speaking to him was as natural as greeting any other man. "Have we met before?" he asked. "No," she said, tilting her head slightly. "But Lagos is small. I've heard your name." He smiled. I don't think I'll forget yours, Miss Bisi," she said simply. At that moment, the noise of the ballroom seemed to fade. Adigun didn't know her story yet, but something inside him whispered, "This is the woman I've been waiting for." What he didn't see, what nobody noticed, was the faint glint in her eyes, the kind of glint that hides more than it shows. Earlier that same day, before the glittering lights of Eko Hotel, Bisi was in a very different world. The sun was hot over Balogun market, and the air smelled of fried akara, pepper soup, and engine oil from passing okadas. Traders shouted prices, hawkers carried trays on their heads, and buses honked impatiently as they squeezed through narrow streets. Bisi walked confidently between stores, the hem of her simple yellow gown brushing against buckets of tomatoes and yams. Her scarf was tied neatly, and her eyes were sharp, always moving, always noticing. "Mama Nkechi," she called, smiling at the tomato seller who sat behind the wooden table, stacked high with red fruit. "How much for this basket?" Mama Nkechi wiped sweat from her forehead. "For you, my Bisi, 5,000 naira. Bisi's smile turned into a playful frown. 5,000? Ah, Mama Nkechi, you want to chase me away? I can get it for 3,000 just down the road." "Then go and buy it there," Mama Nkechi said, crossing her arms. Bisi laughed, leaning closer. "But if I go there, who will I just with? Give me for 3,500, and I will still greet you when I wear my big geleme Sunday." Mama Nkechi chuckled. "You, this girl. Fine, take it for 3,500. As Bisi handed over the money, a small boy tugged at her arm. "Aunt Bisi, I've been waiting since morning. Where's the bread you promised?" Without thinking, she pulled a loaf from her bag and gave it to him. "Go and eat, Tunde. I remember what I told you. Stay in school." The boy grinned and ran off. Bisi continued her shopping, haggling here, weaving there, moving through the market like a queen who ruled without a crown. No one in Balogun knew that in just a few hours, she would be standing under crystal chandeliers, smiling at the city's youngest billionaire. And Prince Adigun? He didn't know that the girl who captured his heart in Echo Hotel was also the girl who could argue over tomatoes without blinking. That night, after the charity ball, Prince Adigun sat alone on the palace balcony. The moon hung low over Lagos, and from his seat, he could see the lights of the city blinking like 1,000 tiny eyes. He was thinking about Bisi. The way she looked him in the eye without fear, the calm smile that made everyone else in the ballroom fade away, the way her name rolled off his tongue. Bisi, Chief Akin, his father's advisor, came to stand beside him. "My prince, you've been quiet since we left Echo Hotel. Is something on your mind?" Adigun leaned back. "I met someone tonight." Chief Akin smiled knowingly. "Another admirer. That's nothing new." "No," Adigun said firmly. "She's different. She didn't try to impress me. She didn't act like she wanted anything from me. I think she could be the one." The old chief chuckled softly. "Your heart is young, my prince. It can be quick to choose." Adigun smiled. "When the heart knows, it knows." He didn't ask where she came from. He didn't wonder how she had ended up at such a grand party. He didn't even notice that, for someone so elegant, she wore no family ring or gold. Somewhere in the quiet night, an owl hooted in the palace garden. A sound the elders always said was a sad warning. But Adigun didn't hear it. He had already made his choice. And in folktales, the choices made in the glow of the moon often lead to paths the heart does not expect. The palace of Ilupeju was not only filled with gold chairs and marble floors, it also kept secrets and old traditions. One of those traditions was the presence of Iya Orun, the palace seer. Iya Orun was not a woman you could easily forget. Her skin was wrinkled like the bark of an ancient tree, and her eyes seemed to see through walls. Some said she could dream about tomorrow before it came. Others swore she once predicted a flood that saved the palace from ruin. One quiet evening, after the sun had slipped behind the Lagos skyline, Iya Orun sent for Prince Adigun. When he entered her prayer room, the air was thick with the smell of burning incense. Clay pots filled with cowrie shells lined the walls. A single oil lamp flickered, making the shadows dance. "My prince," she began, her voice steady but low, "I have heard of the woman who now walks in your heart." Adigun smiled. "Her name is Bisi. She is unlike anyone I have ever met." Iya Orun's eyes narrowed. "Her beauty is bright, yes. But remember, even the lagoon that shines under the sun can hide sharp stones beneath." The priest chuckled softly. "Iya Orun, you always speak in riddles. What are you trying to tell me?" The old woman leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper. "Love her with caution. There's a shadow in her steps, a secret in her smile. I have seen it." Adigun shook his head. "Old fears do not belong in new love. My heart has chosen, and it will not turn back." Iya Orun sighed, her fingers brushing over the cowrie shells on her mat. "A stubborn heart is like a goat. It will walk into the trap with her marine. Outside, a cold wind blew through the palace garden, bending the flowers. But the prince, lost in thoughts of Bisi, did not feel it. That night, after leaving Iyoro's prayer room, Prince Adigun walked through the long palace hallway. The marble floor shone under the golden lights, but his mind was somewhere else, still thinking of Bisi's smile at the ball. Her laughter, her bold eyes, the way she seemed untouched by his wealth, all of it made him feel alive in a way no other woman had. He remembered Iyoro's warning, but brushed it aside. Old people see danger in every shadow. He told himself, this is my life, my love. The next morning, while the city roared with downfall horns and traders' shouts, the prince sat at his polished mahogany desk. He called for his personal assistant. Bring me the best red roses in Lagos, he said, and find a note card. I want to send her a message. An hour later, a palace driver arrived at Bisi's mother's apartment with a bouquet so big, it looked like it had been taken straight from a fairy tale. Nestled inside was a cream-colored envelope. Bisi opened it slowly. The handwriting was bold and certain. Every king needs his queen. Will you be mine? Adigun. She smiled to herself, running her fingers over the petals. Later that day, when her friend Shede visited, she showed her the roses. Ha, Bisi, this is not small love, oh. Shede teased. Do you know how many women in Lagos will faint if Prince Adigun sells them so much as a test? Bisi laughed. A sound as light as the clinking of glasses at a party. Let them faint. The prince knows what he wants. Far away in the palace, Iyoro sat in her small room, turning her carousels, one lathered face down. She shook her head slowly and muttered to herself, when the ears refuse to hear, the eyes will learn the lesson. The news spread through Lagos like Harmattan fire. Prince Adigun was getting married. Banana Island streets glittered with strings of golden lights. Tailors worked day and night sewing lace and albadas for the guests. Footy singers rehearsed their songs. White caterers roasted goats and stirred giant pots of jollof rice. On the morning of the wedding, the sun rose bright and proud, as if it wanted to witness the day. By afternoon, the grand hall in Victoria Island was filled. Big men in albadas as wide as fishing men shook hands with women in gold and coral beads. Photographers, cameras, clicked non-stop. The prince stood at the altar, dressed in white and gold, his cap tilted perfectly. His eyes stayed fixed on the entrance. Damn, Bisi walked in. She was dressed in a shimmering ivory gown, her gala rising like a queen's crown. Every step she took made her stun. Even the flowers in the hall seemed to bend towards her. When she reached the altar, Adigun took her house. You look like a dream, he whispered. She smiled. Then, don't wake up. The priest's voice rose above the music. Do you, Prince Adigun, take this woman? I do, Adigun said without hesitation. And do you, Bisi, take this man? I do, she replied, her voice clear and sweet. The hall erupted in cheers. Drummers beat their talking drums. Singers praised the couple, and the guests sprayed money like rain falling on a dry land. But outside, heavy clouds gathered. Far away in her quiet room, Iyorogun sat on her mat, eyes closed. She could feel the wind changing. Though the palace was miles away, under her breath she murmured, when the drum beats too loud, it hides the sound of the coming storm. The first weeks after the wedding were filled with celebration. Bisi and Prince Adigun appeared in magazines, smiling at charity events, ribbon-cutting ceremonies, and dinners with important guests. Whenever they drove through the city in the royal convoy, people waved and shouted blessings. But in the quiet corners of the palace, some noticed little things. Have you seen how Madame Somtai disappears for hours? Whispered Amina, one of the palace maids, as she arranged flowers in the corridor. Another maid Shade frowned. Maybe she visits her family. Amina shook her head. I asked the driver once. He said she always tells him to drop her at a different place each time. Sometimes Yaba, sometimes Surulere, and once just by the roadside. In public, Bisi's smile never faded, but in private moments, she sometimes stood by the window, staring far beyond the palace gates, her eyes narrow like someone waiting for a secret signal. One evening, as the couple sat together in the gold-plated dining room, Adigun noticed her phone buzzing. She glanced at it quickly, her lips pressing into a tight line, before she slid it under the table. Who's that? Adigun asked casually. Oh, just one of my friends, she said, picking up her fag. Nothing important. He didn't push further. After all, He trusted her completely. Outside, the evening wind rattled the palm leaves in the garden. Somewhere, a stray cat yowled, a lonely sound that seemed to slip into the walls. And in a quiet corner of the palace, Iyorun placed her hand on her caro shelves and whispered, "The shadow has entered the house." The trouble began quietly. So quietly that Prince Adigun almost missed it. First, it was a gold bracelet missing from the royal treasury. A chest of coral beads vanished from the queen's mother's room, though the door was always locked. One hot afternoon, Adigun summoned the palace guards. They stood in a line before him, eyes fixed on the marble floor. "My prince," stammered the chief guard. We don't know how the things disappeared, but what?" Adigun's voice was sharp. The guard shifted uneasily. "Some say Madame walks alone at night." Adigun frowned. Another guard nodded nervously. "We hear her footsteps after midnight, my prince, soft like someone who doesn't want to be heard. Sometimes the doors creak, but when we check, the corridor is empty." At first, Adigun laughed it off. "You think my wife steals from her? Perhaps you've been listening to many market gossip stories." The guards bowed and withdrew. But as Adigun walked through the palace that evening, he noticed something he had never paid attention to before. In the kitchens, in the servants' quarters, even among the palace cleaners, people spoke in low voices, their eyes flicking towards him and then away. He tried to ignore it, but the whispers followed him like shadows that refused to fade. And when night fell, Adigun lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering for the first time, what does Bisi do when the moon is watching? The days grew longer, but Prince Adigun began to notice something strange. Bisi was never around. At breakfast, she would smile and say, "I have charity meetings today, my dear." And by the time the sun set, her seat at the dinner table would still be empty. One afternoon, the palace driver returned alone. "Where is my wife?" Adigun asked. "She said she would get back on her own, my prince," the driver replied, eyes darting away. Adigun narrowed his gaze. "And where did you take her?" The driver hesitated. "First, to Yaba, then to a small shop in a quiet street. After that, she told me to go home." A few days later, Adigun was walking past Bisi's dressing room when he stopped at the doorway, counting thick bundles of cash on the table. "Bisi," he asked slowly, "what's all this money for?" She looked up, her face unreadable, then gave her one smile. "For the poor, my love. You know I have a generous heart." Adigun stepped closer, his eyes studying her. "And you keep it in cash? Because?" Her smile didn't falter. "Some things are easier without bank records." For the first time since their wedding, Adigun felt a coldness in her eyes, like a door had shut and locked from the inside. That night, long after she had gone to sleep, he sat awake, hearing the words of the palace echo in his head. Her eyes shine bright, but they hide their shadow. The rain had been falling since afternoon, turning the streets of Lagos into rivers of headlights and reflections. Prince Adigun sat in his car, parked a little away from the palace gates, waiting. He knew Bisi's routine, her charity events, her sudden errors. But tonight, he would see where they truly led. When her black SUV rode out of the palace, he waited a few breaths, then eased into the traffic behind her. The wipers slapped back and forth as they crossed Treadman-like bridge, the rain drumming on the roof like impatient talking drums. Bisi's car did not head toward Victoria Island Bright Towers or the luxury hotel she often mentioned. Instead, it turned toward Yaba, into narrower streets, where puddles mirrored dim street lights. Adigun's grip on the steering wheel tightened. The SUV finally pulled up at a small faded hotel, a kind with peeling paint and no doorman. From his shadow parking spot, he watched the hotel door open, and there she was, Bisi, stepping out of the rain towards the lobby. But she was not alone. A man followed Bisi beside her, tall with a slight smile. In his hand, he held the diamond necklace Adigun had given her only days before, the one she had sworn she would treasure forever. Through the wet glass, Adigun saw them laugh together. Close, familiar, as if they had done this many times before. The world seemed to go silent inside his chest. No rain, no cars, no city, just the stillness of betrayal sinking deep into his bones. He stayed there for a long time, watching the lights of the small hotel flicker in the storm. By the time he drove away, he knew one thing. The shadow the seer spoke of had a face. The palace was silent except for the soft hiss of rain dripping from the eaves. Prince Adigun sat alone in the grand sitting room, his shadow stretching long under the lamp. The carved palace clock ticked toward midnight. Then the great door swung open. Bisi stepped inside, her perfume drifting ahead of her like a trail. Her gown shimmered faintly from the wet night, and her eyes betrayed no surprise at finding him awake. Adigun spoke quietly. "Where were you?" "Bisi, you already know." Adigun finally looking at her. "I want to hear it from you." She tilted her head, a faint smile calling at the corner of her lips, not of warmth, but of something colder. "Bisi, why ask what you have already said it in your heart? You saw what you wanted to see, my prince, not who I truly am." A gust of wind rattled the shutters, making the lamp flame tremble. "Adigun, I gave you trust. I gave you my name. I gave you the crown." Bisi, stepping closer, voice like silk. "And I took them. Did you think I came here to warm your bed and smile for the court? No, I came for what I could carry when the night grew long." She reached into her bag and tossed a small gold bangle onto the table. It clanked against the wood, one of the stolen bracelets from the treasury. "Adigun, through clenched teeth. The people will hunt you for this." Bisi shrugging. "Let them try. A clever bird knows how to leave no feathers in the hunter's snare." They stared at each other in silence, the gulf between them wider than the kingdom itself. By dawn, she was gone, along with chests of gold, coral beads, and precious gems from the royal vault. Outside, the rain had washed the palace courtyard clean. On the ground, abandoned and already gathering dirt, lay golden queen's crown Adigun had once placed on her head. As the first sun touched the palace roof, the old proverb whispered through his mind like the voice of an elder long gone. "No matter how sweet the mango looks, check if it's rotten inside."